Hello and welcome, viewers, to another episode of the Renewalism Show. Good to have you here. Well, today's episode, like I said yesterday, is going to be a little different because now I'm going to start talking about the impact of renewalism or just renewalist perspective on what's happening in our world today. You see, for those of you who are just joining in, renewalism is about changing human consciousness. It's a renewal of human consciousness. And why is that necessary? Because the way that we have been living over the last few centuries now has led to a state of rising personal illness and social disintegration, environmental degradation, and overall moral decay. And all that is reversible. And how is it reversible? It's reversible by being the change you want to see, as Gandhi would have said it, by our individual habits. Because our habits are our actions, and our actions are what shape our world. Now, over the last 34 episodes of the Renewalism Show, I've had guests coming in from various backgrounds, experts, practitioners, in in each of these lines of thinking, which become our habits. So the idea was that we have these experts, we bring them on to expose you, the viewer, to a point of view that makes it easy to believe that you can practice these habits. And coincidentally, we had this COVID crisis. Now, the book had nothing to do with the crisis. The book was written in December last year. And it was only while I was editing the book that I discovered that because of the lockdowns, a lot of these habits that have been written here are actually coming into practice. And so today's episode is going to analyze COVID. I mean, there's nothing that's happening around us which is as current as COVID, right? And meanwhile, if you would like to get more details and be a part of the renewalism movement, this is where you get details. Renewalism, as I see it, is going to be a movement of a great magnitude because we're talking about the renewal of our own consciousness by small changes in our lifestyle. We were able to bring those kind of changes as vegans, we were able to bring those kind of changes as technologists. Well, I believe renewalists will far surpass the number of vegans and technologists and Catholics and Buddhists and everything together because we stand to gain. We stand to gain enormously. In fact, if Guru Pranachandra, who is the guide of this book, he actually is a vibration that came to me just 2 days ago. You will find an episode about who the belief is Guru Pranachandra, where I talk about how this whole thing manifested. He talks about technology being a source of self-annihilation. And if that's to happen, then the COVID was a mere dress rehearsal. It was just a way for us to find out what is the level of our preparedness for a force that could wipe us out. And we can be well on the way to wiping ourselves out unless we make those changes of habits at an individual level. So it might interest you and surprise me for sure, that the COVID crisis has got us 70% marks, which means out of the 30 habits that are prescribed by Guru Pranachandra, he was just, coming to me every day, and I was just discovering the habits the way you as a reader would discover them. But they just sort of fell into place. And 70% of those, in some way or the other, in some form or the other, have been adopted by us. That's a large number. You see the difference in the air, you see the difference in the environment. So the thing is that we have been forced into making that change. And sometimes when we make that change in a forced manner, like the schooling system has changed so hugely, we get stressed. We don't want to be stressed. We want to prepare for it. And the process of preparation is adopting the habits. So grab the book because I'm going to go through what I have learned on this journey of the last 3 months of lockdowns and map it with what one of our experts has had to say about this. All right. So if you're ready, let me get started because through this one episode, we're going to look at renewal by design. And that renewal by design is going to change everything for the better from a willful human perspective, right? So the first habit is about, okay, there's another episode, uh, why the bleep do we need this book, and recently 3 days ago, and that actually talks about the habits because they are so current. Speaking of so current, what's really current is that this book is in the running to be on the Read See newsletter, that's what they call it, which reaches out to millions of people. And you can upvote the page. You just go to reedsy, that's reedsy.com, and search for renewal. If you do upvote it, it could probably make it this week into the Read See newsletter. And that's the idea. We need to reach millions of people. If you see some of the reviews, it says that this book is practical. And these are reviews by Read See experts. There are about close to 30 reviews by readers, but the Read See experts say that this is simple and practical, and it is the need of the hour, and it is millions must read this. So you'll play your part in reaching those millions. Speaking of playing your part, the byline of the book is your unexpected role in saving the planet, because it's your habits and that's what saves the planet. So it starts with just hopping across to reedsee.com. You can pick up a copy through that site as well, and just do an upvote. You don't have to write anything. It doesn't take more than a fraction of a second. All right. So I'm not going to talk about the habits, but in the very first episode, as you go through the playlist, you will find the episodes in the same sequence that they were recorded. They were not recorded in the order of habits. They were recorded in a random order, so to say. But the first episode was with Meenu Agarwal, and we were talking about how you wake up without pressure. And a lot of people during this crisis have started waking up without pressure because there's no alarm clock that you have to switch off. There is a more control over your commute because you're doing it telephonically, and that has changed the morning routines for many people. So that's the video one. Now, the second habit is about conscious breathing. And we had Monica Gulati speaking about recouping energy from time to time. Now, she's a cancer survivor, and this is episode 23. And we, whether or not faced by a challenge as critical as that, have learned how to recoup our energy because we just are more aware of it. We are more in with it in our homes these days. So you would agree with me on that. The third is about staying in harmony. Now, the book prescribes a process for that using the parrot, but we had a talk with Ben Foster, who's from UK, and that is episode 4 on the new normal. And because how we harmonize ourselves with the new normal is very, very critical for our, you know, sustenance, so to say. Then we had an episode on getting efficient and stress free with the Qigong specifically. But a lot of us, this is Anya on episode 26, a lot of us are moving indoors, are practicing yoga, are practicing exercises, which was not necessarily what we got into our routines when we were working outdoors, because kitty parties got in the way and office got in the way, and sometimes the kids had to be taken to the mall. But now none of that's happening, and we're getting a little more regimented, aren't we? The fifth is about relationship stress. And we talk about relationships in the context of game theory with Rohit Prasad on episode 25. It's very interesting. And it's about mindful speech that started happening in the family. because that's the games people play, and that's how consciousness is evolving, right? So far, game theory doesn't have a solution to consciousness, but that's a story for the episode 25. We were with the Dave on episode 14, Dave Crane, an international global speaker and coach of speakers, a public influencer of a billion people. And we were talking about being grateful for small things. And truly, COVID has made us grateful for little blessings. We started focusing on what's otherwise taken for granted, right? Cut object dependency. To buy or not to buy with Praveen, an outlier marketer, Praveen Shekhar, on episode 6. And we talked about minimalism. And minimalism is in, right? We have investing your energy with youngsters, someone younger. And we have both dimensions with the father of a teenager, as well as an angel investor for startups, Mandar Joshi, on episode 12. Awesome learnings there. And then there are a couple of things, we have 9 things that we leave out, 21 out of 30 habits we've started implementing. So 2 of those 9 are organizing and recounting your purpose, your day vis-a-vis your purpose. With Sunil, we had an awesome talk, Sunil Roberts, in episode 19 on getting your purpose and acknowledging blessings and visualizing your future. Now, the crisis hasn't pushed us into visualizing a future. In fact, we are more uncertain about our future, but you can create that future, I tell you. And that's what's collective karma all about. Habits are karma. Read the book for more, or just visit renewalism.com. And we had a talk with Rafia in episode 13, Rafia Sultan of Singapore, on this. Awesome. Coming to the next set of symbiotic renewal habits, Nirja Singh in episode 2 itself was talking about the way that a military man, and she's from a military family looks at life. Carrying your stuff, taking responsibility, passing those values to the next generation. She's a teenager, somebody who's seen it all and connects with teenagers, and very powerful episode right there off the back, episode 1 and 2, great. Deepti Shukla on episode 10 talks about fortifying your consciousness through the food you eat. So, better diets. What is a prescribed diet? And she's in fact a vegan ambassador. What is veganism? We had a great chat about it. What does it take to create the movement that it has been created in just a few decades in front of us? And likewise is going to be created with you on the renewalism front. Then we had Kapila, an energy master, Kapila Taneja, talking about health tips using energy. And that's powerful because sharing health on WhatsApp is what's happening with the COVID crisis. But the habit is about sharing health with community, because that changes the perspective of relationships. And today our relationships are online. And so it's so very important to dovetail with that. We had Arjun on episode 30 talked about ventilating, traveling, and mingling. It's a very interesting episode on the confluence of science and consciousness. And since traveling is no right now, it's not something that we've been practicing. One of those 9 that we are not doing. Also, following the 10-minute rule for power and water with Gagan Garg, who's a solar expert. And he was talking about the future of solar power and whether that is the panacea for things on episode 8. Not something we're practicing because of the crisis, but something that we better start practicing because energy is not here to stay. And then we're talking about buying concentrates and stuff like that, and how the hotel segment is looking at the COVID crisis with Amit Prakash of Singapore on episode 28. So, continuing with what we are practicing right on is that we have started looking at gifting and trees and gifting services, nursing services, and things like that, instead of those buying those expensive luxury gifts and stuff like that. And that is the way to go, Guru Pranachandra says. And Shashwat, who's the founder of sustainabilityzero.com, was with us in episode 27, who completely agrees that that's the way to make it sustainable. Then making it sustainable, decluttering the outside as well as decluttering the inside is an aspect we discussed with Sahil Mehta of UAE in episode 11. And a lot of you started doing that. I mean, there was nothing to do in the early days of the lockdown, and everybody was spring cleaning, weren't you? Well, it's time to do it again. 3 months are up. Think of it. And then likewise, like you declutter space, you can declutter time. Not something we started doing, but definitely recommended here and discussed in detail with Brigadier Sushil Basir on episode 9. And likewise, decluttering and tidying up your energy, discussed with a monk of close to 20 years, Kabir Saxena, on episode 24. So stuff that you can start doing. All right. Then we have already got a pointer to a habit of changing systems. Changing systems is in your hands. And this guy in the Shawshank Redemption did that. Is very interestingly made movie, which Anurag Sinha talked about in episode 3, and got us to believe that yes, the power is in your hands to change any kind of system, whether it is pollution or schooling or medicine or governance or corruption, and all of that is taken up in this book. In fact, on the 17th episode, we had Deepak Maheshwari, who's a policymaker. I mean, he's an expert in public policy for organizations like Microsoft and Visa and Symantec and stuff, or was it Mastercard? Yeah. And Deepak talks about how people at an individual level can change policy with loads of examples. Awesome. And we're talking about changing household systems to start with. The power is with you. Just get habituated to how you change the system and then carry it further into the community as you go further. So the COVID crisis has taught us a lot about rethinking education and online education. And we had the founder of realeducation.com, Vikas Jain, on episode 20, which was a very insightful discussion into where the world is headed. Then we had an episode with CK Arora, who's a coach and the author of a book on midlife rebooting, on episode 5. And we talked about something that we still have to practice. The crisis hasn't pushed us into it, but it's about valuing consciousness over gains. It's about the moral decay that we're getting into. We've started meeting elders often, right? Habit 25, discussed in episode 15 with Naeem Khan, who spoke of what it means to interact with elders. Now, a lot of us have started calling elders, and we started genuinely caring about outside our framework, because we have an innate human interest in others. It just gets suppressed with the modern lifestyles, which cause those modern lifestyle disorders, which are, all of what stress is about. There is a lot of stress with the COVID crisis as well, but that's because of things that haven't just locked in correctly. Now, a reading of renewal and a practice of it and discussion of that in renewal clubs, in renewal groups, renewal at a local level is what's going to bring that into a level of stability and create greater equanimity for us as individuals and as a society. That's the whole idea of renewing human consciousness. With Maria Cordero on episode 16, we talked about developing new interests and how that plays such a major role in developing mindfulness. Now, all of this is not happening unless you're mindful, unless you're aware of where we stand and where we've got ourselves. Learning a new language is the way Guru Pranachandra said that. A lot of people have started learning languages, but certainly started learning new things to do. A lot of people have started learning cooking and experimenting with new recipes and stuff like that. And trust me, you can't be preparing something you don't know unless you mindfully apply yourself to it. So it's a fantastic habit that COVID has gotten to us. Then we had Christian talking about telecommuting and something that off-road is in and the impact is seen all over. That was episode 7. We had Babla Sharan talking about off-road from the point of view of keeping your vehicles fit or keeping them off the road in episode 21. A fantastic talk about the choices that we have to make on using information technology, the info highway or the road highway. And then we had a great talk on episode 18 with self-reliant health with Dr. Arvind Sinha, the Chief Administrator of AIMS Jodhpur, the All India Institute. And he was in complete agreement that Western medicine is there for you for stuff that is not lifestyle related. It's you who's got to take care of your health before you have an accident or a trauma, which ought to bring you to a hospital. And Ravi on episode 29 was talking about recycling and regrowth, a great regrowth story personally, Ravi Bhandari, and how people started growing stuff indoors and how that's so very critical, which we are seeing happening in colonies all around, because that's where farming is to go. It's got to go with us. We've got to take charge, we've got to be reliant, and we are the renewalists who are going to make this happen. So that said, friends, I invite you to read the book. I invite you to the renewalism clubs, and I will continue to come back to you on the renewalism show. Though not every day, you could say season 1 was these 35 episodes, power packed every evening at 9. Subscribe to this channel so that you get notifications every time I have something to share on what's going on around us and how these habits are going to progressively bring us the solutions that we so desperately seek. So join us on the Renewalism show, join me on this channel, and see you. Have a